On Lariat TV News today, how one family is working to end human trafficking after rescuing two young boys who were almost victims and giving them shelter.
Baylor students come from various backgrounds and walks of life. We'll find out how some of them strive to make Baylor their home away from home.
In a message reaching across the world, see how one Baylor student is making a positive impact in helping young women feel like they belong.
Good afternoon, I'm Christy Soto.
And I'm Meredith Aldis. Thanks for joining us. Today we're bringing you a special edition of Lariat TV News as a part of the Global News Relay. This event brings together students from universities all across the globe in a newscast focused on finding shelter in your community.
A group that has been at Baylor for years has recently stepped up to fight for recognition as a student organization. While many people are unaware of the Sexual Identity Forum, the club has taken a new approach to student activism and spoken up for LGBT students on a conservative campus. LTVN's Riley Sievers has the details on how this group has been working to make Baylor a home for all students regardless of their sexual identity.
Being a member of the LGBT community on a Baptist campus sounds impossible, but the Sexual Identity Forum is providing a space for students who feel like they are alone.
There's so many other people who have the same thoughts, feelings, religion, belief, whatever as you. And it's just as a way of helping you find other people, find community, find friends, and have that great Baylor experience that we want every student to have.
Since its creation in 2011, SIF has existed under the radar, and many students are unaware that it exists. But the group is now working to change that. Baylor's 2017 climate survey revealed that 8% of students who completed the survey identify as other than heterosexual.
So we are a just minority group on campus to give a voice, community, and place of belonging for the 8% of Baylor student body who identify as being queer, transgender, non-binary, or really anything in the wide spectrum of LGBT.
The spring 2018 semester was a turning point for the group because they decided it was time to be more visible. One of the ways they did this was a chalking campaign around campus.
Last year it was still pretty underground. People were still scared to talk about it, but especially this semester is when people are actually like, hey, this is a thing, I'm in this. You see more stickers, more pins on people's backpacks, and so you're able to say, hey, come to SIF, this is a thing that is at Baylor.
Patterson says his experience at Baylor has overall been positive and attributed this to the community.
I think it's those small moments that I remember the most about Baylor. It's not the kind of random bad things that happen. It's the overwhelming sense of Christian community that does say love your neighbor as yourself, that does go out of its way to be open, inclusive, and kind to everyone, regardless of belief, gender, creed, whatever.
He said discussion about issues like human sexuality is a key to growth and education, and SIF wants to encourage that discussion at Baylor. Reporting for Lariat TV News today, I'm Riley Sievers.
Members of the Sexual Identity Forum are not the only students fighting to make a difference in social justice issues at Baylor. One student in particular has taken it upon herself to end human trafficking. Elizabeth Tharp joins us in the studio with more.
Thanks, Christy. Human trafficking is a widespread issue in the United States and around the world. For one Baylor student, the issue hits closer to home. LTVN's Riley Sievers learned that student's family inspired her to speak out against that global problem. Her adopted brothers were almost victims of that sex trade crime, and now she's working toward her goal of establishing a shelter for trafficked victims.
When Amber Katinsky was 14 years old, her family adopted two boys, and their story was anything but ordinary. Kola and Vlad were brought to the United States for human trafficking. A pimp had arranged for a man and his family from Florida to adopt the boys from Russia. The plan was for him to eventually take custody.
When the boys came to Florida, they didn't even have a room ready for them. They locked them in the master bedroom for 3 months on end, unable to leave the room. If they left the room, they were beat.
Relatives of the middleman were unaware of the trafficking scheme and took the boys from him when they sensed that something was wrong. They put word out about the 2 boys who needed a home, and that's how Katinsky's mother found Vlad and Kola.
She had met a woman at the post office named Mila who was on the phone speaking Russian, and they got into conversation, and my mom shared how she wanted to adopt 2 twin Russian boys. Mila said that's interesting because there is a Russian community email that's going around in Orlando that these 2 boys from Russia need a home.
Katinsky said even though Vlad and Kola didn't become part of the family until she was 14, she can't remember a time without them. Their experience has made her want to work to help others who are victims of human trafficking.
We are in this together and ready to change the world, one life at a time.
It really has sparked my passion for where I want to go with my life. I want to open up a human trafficking safe house now because I can't imagine life without my brothers, and I can't imagine if they had not been rescued, what their life would have looked like or if they would even be alive today.
To truly understand, Katinsky said people need to recognize that human trafficking is happening all around us. The International Labor Organization estimates that there are 20.9 million victims of human trafficking worldwide. And according to the Human Trafficking Hotline, there were 8,524 reported cases of human trafficking in the United States in 2017.
To see their lives be radically transformed, just coming here and knowing that they're safe in a family that loves them has been really refreshing and encouraging, and kind of ignited a fire for me to be able to be an advocate and a voice for the ones who are silenced and voiceless.
Reporting for Lariat TV News Today, I'm Riley Sievers.
Baylor is filled with students with different backgrounds, including men and women who served in the military. On campus, veterans are able to find community within the Baylor Vets program, which offers educational and transitional services. But Baylor does not limit its services to only students. It's available to help all veterans in the Waco area. LTVN's Meredith Aldis spoke with one vet who has overcome issues and found a place to belong on campus.
Ryan Reynolds is not your traditional Baylor student. He is 30 years old, married, commutes 2 hours a day to get to campus, and is a veteran. During his first semester at Baylor, he befriended more professors than classmates and ate lunch in his car.
I prefer less people. I don't like feeling crowded. Though I'm trying to work past that. It's cheesy. I kind of found that at home though, like welcome.
Reynolds said he struggles with PTSD and severe anxiety and tends to isolate himself. About 10 months ago, he decided to put himself out there by going to counseling and finding ways to deal with things that make him uncomfortable.
Recently, I heard someone say, don't double down on your strengths, triple down on your weaknesses, and that had a big impact on me. It's like to really challenge myself to get out of my comfort zone, do things I don't like to do. Kind of force myself to overcome any fears or anything that might hold me back.
Since the opening of the Vets Lounge in August of 2017, it has provided many vets on campus a place to call home.
The veteran community is very unique. Like, we are all extremely tight-knit, even though we may have just met each other. There's instant bonds that you can't really describe, but it's just there.
Although it can be tough sometimes being a non-traditional student at Baylor, Reynolds believes they can benefit a classroom.
I think veterans have kind of a unique experience. They're a little calloused and a little jaded, and sometimes can be a bit crass. But I think that that's a nice element to add to a classroom, because life is crass and jaded, and it's not going to be smooth sailing.
For Global News Relay at Baylor, I'm Meredith Aldis. A senior in the journalism department has shared her insecurities through her writing. She created a blog her freshman year to inspire women to feel confident in who they are. And now her website is an inspiration to millions. Our reporter Christy Soto has the story.
This Baylor senior started a blog her freshman year that turned into a movement, and now she's a published author. Grace Valentine started the Enough movement aimed at helping women who have developed insecurities trying to live up to society's standards.
The whole goal of the Enough movement is to say you aren't enough for this world. Like, there will be someone who's prettier than you, and there will be someone who's more successful than you, and you aren't always going to get your way. But at the end of the day, that's not what life's about.
Studies show that over 60% of social media, like Instagram, has negatively impacted their self-esteem. And Valentine says by sharing her insecurities online, she's been able to help others.
I remember as I grew up older, I was like, I have to be pretty, and I can't control my face, I can't control anything else, but I can control my weight. And it became a big control thing about how to be a hotter and prettier girl and to be more enough. And so I began literally working out like every day for like 4 hours and counting calories to the extreme, and it got to the point too where I was even doing things that harmed my body in order to gain advancement in my image.
Her blog has over 6 million views from across the globe and has created a safe space for many women.
Whenever I'm feeling alone, I can go to her blog and I can look up a topic that I'm struggling with, and she's been through the exact same topic.
I think it's such an encouragement to not only me, but to other girls who just are sometimes struggling and who don't feel like they're enough, and just knowing that the Lord, through Him, we're enough.
She hopes her book, Am I Enough?, becomes a tangible way for girls to feel like they are not alone.
In those chapters, it will go through my stories, and then also times when I finally realized that the Lord needed to be my foundation and not just the guy's opinion of me. I promise to be honest with you, and I pray that you'll be honest with yourself too. Are you ready to dance with God instead of the world? I am.
Her book will be on the shelves at Barnes & Noble this summer and is also available online at Target and Amazon. Reporting for Lariat TV News, I'm Christy Soto.
In the Baylor School of Music, the trombone players have proven they are more than just peers, they are family. The music school is their home away from home. Baylor senior Scott Quintana was diagnosed with cancer earlier this year. His friends came up with a simple gesture that meant the world to him. I sat down with the members of the trombone studio and they gave me a closer look at how their bond runs deeper than just music.
The week before Christmas, senior music education major Scott Quintana got news that would change his life. He was diagnosed with testicular cancer.
It was a personal challenge for me though, because I was feeling the pressure of, geez, I was going to have a job, I wanted to start my career, but this came first. Like my health, and everyone agrees that my health would come first.
Quintana, after sharing the news with his friends and family, posted on Facebook to inform everyone what he was going through.
Being a music major, like, this is our life, so we're always together. So like, just knowing that one of our closest friends has cancer was like really, really shocking.
The members of the trombone studio at the Baylor School of Music responded in solidarity with what eventually would be called Scalps for Scott.
We all got together and we met in like the trombone studio room, and our professor actually was the one that shaved like all of our heads. So we kind of made this big process out of it where were there for each other and for Scott, and Scott was there, and we just all did it together.
You know, hair is such a material thing, and it grows back eventually, so like, why not shave it for him if it shows that we're all here behind him to support him.
The members of the trombone studio have shown they are more than just peers, they are family.
It felt encouraging to know that like we are so close-knit and there for each other, and like we really are like this family, like in the School of Music.
I really do appreciate it from my heart, and to see how much they care about being a collective community, because we always supported each other no matter what kind of accomplishment we were going through, no matter what kind of hardship we were going through. Like, all these guys stand by one another. So when I first told Mr. Phillips that I was diagnosed with cancer, he said that they're all going to stand behind me and be there for me. So I think that's one of the things about this, is that I felt that strong sense of community, and I'm thankful for that even through this.
Reporting for LTVN, I'm Christy Soto.
For many Baylor athletes, home is often with their teammates and coaches, especially if they travel thousands of miles to find their shelter in Texas. The men's tennis team in particular has several players from across the globe, including Germany, Hungary, Austria, Chile, and Slovenia. Baylor Bramer is in the studio and has more on how one new tennis recruit has found a place to belong despite being so far from home.
Thanks, Meredith. Sven Law, a freshman from Slovenia, decided to attend Baylor to continue his education and pursue a career in tennis. However, his path to Waco was not like other recruits. LTVN's Branson Hardcastle sat down with Law to find out more about his journey.
Freshman Sven Law is a Baylor tennis player from Slovenia, and 10 months ago, Law told the Bears no and that he was playing for Ohio State. but Baylor got a second chance after his plans with the Buckeyes fell through.
He had reached back out to us after a while with, saying he was going to go to Ohio State. He ended up with us. Hadn't been to campus, didn't really know knew a few of the guys on the team, but didn't know much about Baylor.
Head coach Matt Knoll wanted to recruit Law, and a former Baylor tennis player and Slovenian national helped influence Law in his decision to commit to the Bears.
The first message I saw on my Facebook Messenger was Coach Knoll, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna check Baylor. I knew before that one Slovenian guy, Matthias Gaga, went here like a couple years ago, and he was like, of course, Baylor is a great place to go, especially for tennis, school-wise, of course. And I was like, okay, why not? And I sent a message back to Coach Knoll, and that's how I ended up here.
Law said that his transition to America hasn't been difficult because his teammates help him feel at home.
All our players on our team do extremely good job of making you feel good on team, on and off the court. They support you in all the ways that it's possible, so it just feels like another family.
It's been a really fun process to see him get used to the culture and used to the environment, and then really be at home now.
Reporting for Lariat TV News today, I'm Branson Hardcastle.
It can be very hard for a stray animal to find shelter in a city, and many struggle to survive. That was the case with Shadow, a black cat who wandered aimlessly without a home on the Baylor campus. But that's when a Baylor professor decided to give her a safe, dry place to call her own, and now they're both better off. LTVN's Elizabeth Tharp tells us more.
If you've ever been to or walked by the Castle Law building here on Baylor's campus, then you've probably passed by this cute furry little friend seeking shelter. Well, thanks to Baylor professor and animal lover John Cunningham, Shadow didn't have long to wait for some help. And it all started 8 years ago.
I actually saw her outside and she was attacking a squirrel. And I'm a lover of all animals and I didn't want to see that happen. So I thought, you know what, if I started feeding her, then maybe she'd leave the squirrels alone.
And sure enough, it did.
Let's go get some food.
Since then, Cunningham comes in to care for Shadow 5 days a week around 6 a.m. and she's always at the door waiting for him. She then follows Cunningham into his office while he prepares her food. And then he walks her back outside so she can eat.
You ready?
Cunningham said a lot of people who love Shadow were concerned about where she would go on cold winter nights, so they wanted to give her a shelter to stay protected and warm.
One of the journalism professors came up with the idea of kind of getting a makeshift litter box, but with blankets in it so she could cuddle up in the winter time and at least be protected, not necessarily from the extreme cold, but from the wind. I think that's a big deal. So I've seen her in there a couple times, so I know she uses it, and it's right by where her food is, so it's a nice little place where she has a place to sleep and her food and water right next to it.
Being an animal lover since he was 8 years old, Cunningham said it warms his heart knowing he's able to help Shadow and other animals in need of shelter and love, just like God planned for him. For Baylor's Global News Relay, this is Elizabeth Tharp reporting.
That's it for this special edition of Lariat TV News Today.
Thanks for joining us on Baylor's Global News Relay.